Long night for the Bulls this evening against the best team in the league, or at least I should say the team with the best record in the league. Likely a game most of us Bulls fans assumed would be a loss, especially after playing last night in Detroit. The Bulls actually made a decent run to start the fourth quarter, a bit of the opposite from what we're used to seeing, but the Jazz were just a little too good for the Bulls to pull this one out. As I mentioned in my weekly preview video from this morning, the challenge with the matchup against a team like the Jazz who have Gobert, one of the best defensive centers in the game, an incredible offensive rebounder, to give the Jazz those second chance opportunities is just something the Bulls have struggled with all season, playing against all-star centers. Gobert had 9 blocks in this game, just an incredible defender in the paint. Yet another reason why the Bulls desperately need a center, a true center on this roster who can go head-to-head against some of these best big men in the league. But what's going on, everyone? You were listening to Bulls Central here. Hope you're all doing well. Like I said, not a good game for the Bulls. I think we can all agree on that. I mean, when you're challenged to go inside because of an elite shot blocker in Rudy Gobert, who's able to clog up the paint better than anybody in the league, you really have to rely on your outside shot. But the Bulls shooting 6 for 26 from 3, it's not going to be a good night. And the Bulls actually had 60 points in the paint tonight, which normally would be a nice game for them, scoring that much in the paint, but not particularly efficient were they at doing that. And then, of course, you can't shoot 23% from 3. I think the guy I was most disappointed in tonight was Markkanen. He's the Bulls' second leading scorer. And he really had to step it up on offense when the Bulls are going against better teams in the league. He shot 3 for 12 tonight, didn't make a single 3, although not many guys hit 3s tonight. Lavine had 4 of the total 6 3-pointers in the game. Markkanen has been rebounding the ball a little bit better as of late, which is good to see, but to come up with 8 points and 7 rebounds when your team really needs you to step up is not a good look. And honestly, I mean, it really makes me go back and forth on how much I think this guy should be worth in getting paid when he becomes a restricted free agent. I do still have high hopes for him. And overall, the potential that I see from him, I do think is there. He is still only 24 years old. He is still a great shooter. There are a lot of areas that he does need to work on in terms of his overall game. But really, if he gets an offer that is more than $20 million, I would say even $18 million a year at this point, I feel like the Bulls have to pass and let him walk. I'm just not sure it's worth matching that kind of offer for a guy like Lauri Markkanen. Lavine was really the only player tonight who had a decent game. Didn't shoot the ball exceptionally well, at least, from what we're used to seeing from him, but with the way the team shot as a whole, I don't really think you can knock him for that, going 10 for 25. He also was the only player who shot the 3-ball well tonight, shooting 4 for 10. He also had 7 rebounds, 4 assists to go with 27 points. Lavine's still looking good to hit that 50-40-90 mark, and he has been shooting his free throws a little bit better recently to get him closer to that 90% range. I would love to see Lavine. I think it would be great to see him in that club with other good company who have hit that mark in NBA history. The Bulls were a little better at taking care of the ball tonight, but not by all that much. 13 turnovers in total compared to the Jazz's 9. What also stands out to me from this game when you look at the numbers, and not in a good way, was that Coby White and Denzel Valentine each were negative 23 in box plus minus. The team has just continued to be negatively impacted when those guys are on the floor. We saw that in the game against the Thunder, where the Bulls took an 18-point lead that dwindled down in a matter of minutes when the second unit was brought on the court, which included White and Valentine. And then again, we saw it in the game against the Spurs in the second half when Valentine and White were playing isolation basketball, when they thought the game was out of reach, when the Bulls were up 22 and just started jacking up 3-point shots. And it's definitely a problem that obviously the Bulls need to address, whether in the next few days before the trade deadline. I think we all know about the trade rumors surrounding Lonzo Ball, or in the offseason, because the Bulls desperately need a point guard who can run the offense. Satoransky isn't bad. He's actually a decent floor general, but he's not a long-term solution for that role. Satoransky is not a starting point guard in this league, on a contending team for that matter, or even a playoff team. He's a decent rotational player that can get you some good minutes off the bench and assisting and running the offense. And I'm not saying the Bulls need to get rid of Coby White ASAP. I know a lot of Bulls fans say that, but I think it's too premature to just give up on him like that. He can be a solid offensive player in this league, but I think it's becoming more and more clear he's just not fit to run an offense in the NBA, whether in a starting role or off the bench. He's better positioned to be an off-ball guard that can get you some buckets off the bench to provide you some scoring depth. And Wendell, another, quiet night for him. 6 points, 8 rebounds in only 18 minutes of play. Otto, same thing, only 2 points in 20 minutes. And I think Casey Johnson said it best in a tweet that he posted just a little bit ago, in which he said, this looked like one of the Bulls box scores from last season, in which you had Lavine with lots of points on a lot of shots and not much showing from the other guys outside of the vets, which obviously you don't want to think about past seasons and compare the Bulls of today to then, because I do think the Chicago Bulls are in a much better position where they're at right now than they were before. But it certainly did kind of remind you of games that we saw from last season, when you saw Zach taking the majority of shots and not a lot of other guys contributing, which is the opposite from what we saw in last night's game, where the Bulls were not needing to rely on Zach so much on offense, and other guys were stepping up, and the Bulls executed and playing team basketball. But again, it was against the Pistons. That's the difference, right? And playing one of the worst teams in the league one night, and then one of the best teams the following night. That being said, the Jazz being a great team aside, I would still like to see the Bulls play with more ball movement and running the offense as a team. I don't really think playing a good team excuses that from the Bulls if you start to find yourselves in a hole early to just continue to just look for Zach Lavine to bail you out and get you back into the game. Let's not go back to our old bad habits from last season and focus on Donovan's new system that is predicated on ball and player movement. Anyway, a bit of a shorter post-game video. I feel, a lot of the lost videos are always a bit shorter. On to the next for the Bulls on Wednesday, where they'll be facing the Cavs, which hopefully should be an easier team to handle with how much the Cavs have been struggling in the past month or so. Which is a good thing, because not sure if you guys have taken a look at the schedule, but after that game against the Cavs, the Bulls have an incredibly tough road ahead against the Spurs, Warriors, Suns, the Jazz again, and then the Nets, Pacers, Raptors, and Hawks. So the Bulls are really going to start to have to buckle down and really tidy things up in order to continue making that push for the playoffs. No updates on any trade or trade rumors that have been going around since we last talked. If you missed my last video on the rumors around Lonzo Ball and the reported trade offers the Bulls made for him, be sure to check that out. I'll leave it linked in the description. I do think most trades around the league will come down to the last few hours before the deadline, as it always has been in past seasons. So we'll have to wait and see if the Bulls make a move, and I'll keep you guys posted on any developments that come about. As always, be sure to subscribe if you're a Bulls fan, as I post daily Bulls content. Thanks again for tuning in, guys, and I will catch you in the next one.